Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today I have my video where I'm going to talk about what cards I'm going to be looking for at the National. So I am going to the National. That has been decided. I was a little on the fence. My kids have things that they are doing that may have required me to, miss the National. It's just what happens when you got kids, you got family, right? So that's a very common thing. People miss the National because it's in a location for them hard to get to, or they have other obligations. So I think I have cleared the deck. I am able to go. Now, that is settled. I need to figure out what am I going to look for, right? And I made a video last year where I talked about that's kind of a dumb thing to do, because what people normally do is they make a list of like, here's the 45 cards I'm going to look for at the National. And when they get there, they find 2 of them and they're priced double of, the last one sold on eBay, and they feel very disappointed. And that's a very common National experience, because the best way I've enjoyed the National is kind of go there and go with the flow, kind of just like, just wing it a little bit and just kind of find deals that are there and not try to force things to happen. However, this time around, my collection is getting more narrowly focused. So there's very specific cards I'm going to be looking for, which means I'm going to probably be very bitterly disappointed. Go home, very sad and disappointed, like I have other shows before. And I'm going to talk about a card that's been the bane of my existence for a lot of years. Something that I've given up on to some extent. And I'm going to give it the kind of one last college try to get into the collection. But again, the reason why I also want to say temper your expectations of the National is because what I'm going to say is that the inventory of the National is very similar to the inventory at any other card show, just more of that same inventory, meaning cards that are available. If you're looking for stuff that's really rare and hard to find, it's still really rare and hard to find just because there's more dealers with more inventory. It's going to be inventory that's more readily available. So yes, the odds of something showing up at the National is somewhat improved, but I'm not overly optimistic because it's just been my experience, right? But here we go. The card I'm going to look for, number 1, is the 68 3D Clemente. And talk about it a little bit. And, I've gone after this card multiple times. Multiple times I've been disappointed. In fact, it just happened recently. I went after this card. I got shouted out by a buddy of mine who saw a card shop post one of these, I think on their Instagram or their Facebook. And I immediately reached out and said, hey man, like I've got cards, I got cash, you want to do a deal, you want to do a trade? And basically ghosted, no response. Just kind of like a tepid, like, maybe, whatever. And, because people just want, cash, like as soon as I mentioned cards, I knew like, that guy doesn't want to have to resell a Babe Ruth card or a Mickey Mantle card. Lord knows those are hard to sell, right? So, the guy just didn't really respond. And so that's been my experience with these cards and I'm assuming someone else that needed the card, because there's always someone else, probably swooped right in and, made him a huge cash offer. And that's just generally how you do it. If I had the cash to do that, I would have done the same thing. Fortunately, I'm card rich, cash poor for this kind of a card. So, this card has, again, been something that's very elusive. And I want to go through sort of what's up with this card. One thing is, one just sold in May, PSA 7 for $21,600, which is, for my inventory of cards, I would be able to swing this pretty readily at the National. I would be able to sell some Mickey Mantles. I could trade a Babe Ruth card. I could trade a Ty Cobb card. I could get there within 1 to 4 cards if I really wanted to do that. So to me, that seems like a realistic, obtainable goal. And I'm going to tell you, like, what would happen is, most likely I'll get there and maybe one person has it. And, but it's in an auction, right? It's not actually for sale. Or they have it, but they've got it at some sort of really super unrealistic price point. Like, I've seen this, like, oh, you have a PSA 6. And I'll talk about the condition here in a second. I want $120,000 for it. I'm like, 7 just sold for 21. Well, I don't care. I want 120,000. I want your Babe Ruth, your Ty Cobb, your 5 Mano cards, your Clemente rookie card, all your Ken Griffey Juniors, and your Soul and your firstborn child, and then $20,000 on top of that. That's sort of the kind of deal that these guys want for this card. So it's sort of frustrating. Now, this card is unique, and I'm going to talk about condition, why this card really hurts, because this card is a plastic, very similar to the Kellogg's cards that were made later on in the 70s. So the card is really easy to find in high grade, meaning that there's a lot of 8s, 9s, and some 10s, right? Now, if you go down here, the last 9 sold for $29,000. What's going on with that? Well, one hasn't sold in, I think, 3 years. So there hasn't been a real big sighting of this card since 2020. So that means that, obviously a 7 sold for $21,000, a 9 is going to sell for like $60,000, $80,000, right? So a lot of the cards are in high grade. And again, the last PSA 8 just sold this year in January for around $40,000. So if I go back and look at that, I could still probably swing 40, but that's going to really hurt. That's going to take out some really big cards in my collection if I wanted to do that. It could still happen. So, I'm just dreading the fact I'm going to get there, and there is going to be one. It's going to be for sale, and it's going to be a 9. Or it's going to be a 10. And there's like no way I can swing that. And then that'll be the card. I'll be, I got one, and I'm willing to sell it and trade for it, but you don't have enough cards, and you don't have enough cash to swing it. So it's just going to take a lot of miracles. It's going to have to be someone with a card. It's going to have to be an 8 or below in condition. And it's going to have to be someone selling it or willing to trade or sell it. Now, I could go sell my cards and then buy it, so it could happen. But, someone willing to actually have it, there available. Now, the card has one very significant issue with it. That causes the low grades. Like, why do you see 6s and 5s and 4s and 3s in this card? I just said it's a really easy card to find in high grade. The card itself, so they put that really heavy plasticky front on it to give it that lenticular plastic effect. Well, if you know anything about material science, plastic and paper, they expand and contract at different rates. And so if the card is kept in high moisture environments or temperature environments, the plastic's going to expand and contract differently than the paper. And what that does is it causes the paper on the back, or I've seen the front, to crack. You'll get these kind of cracking looking weirdness on the front or back. And those cracks will, depending on severity, will give the card all the way down to grades like 3s and 4s. Now, it's very common to see the card with a small crack in a PSA 6. So that's the other thing too, is like, would I accept a crack or or crease, I guess you would say? Yeah, hell yeah. In fact, that would be my dream, is to find a card in the PSA 5 or 6 realm, and be able to not have to sell my soul to get this one card. So we'll see, but I am going down there and I am going to actively look for the card. At last year's National, I didn't even look for it. I didn't ask dealers about it. I didn't say, do you know anyone who's got one? I did not even go on the goose chase of this card. I just ignored it. So that's the first card. Second card I'm going to look for, which I'm hoping is there, is a 58 Aaron. Now, this card is really tough to find as well, because I want to find it in a PSA 7 or 8 shape. Again, the difference in a 7 to 8 is between $1,200 and $6,000, right? It's a $5,000 gap there between a 7 and 8. So, obviously, timing's important. This card is, I think, a very similar card, in my opinion, like the 62 Willie Mays that I bought as an 8 a couple years ago, when it was still like a $1,200 to $2,000 card. I forget what I paid for. I think I paid $1,600 for it back in the day, and now it's worth like I think $6,000 or $7,000. The last one sold pretty high. So this card to me has gone to that level of price point, but I think it's going to be a $10,000 card at some point. if some things are there, right? If the card is centered, if it has good color, and if it doesn't have tons and tons of print. Print dots are a big problem for this card, so the card has to have good color and gloss. Now, this is a card that's heavily targeted by trimmers and people who want to doctor the card to make it look nicer because, again, 58s are very tough to find with any kind of visual appeal. Reglossing cards like that, So this is a card that's going to be a risky type of venture. I'll have to really do some homework and find out if this is, from the dealer, ask a lot of questions, look at the card, look at the history of the card, and just do a lot of research if I end up buying a card like this. Because, again, this card, this kind of a card is a card that is targeted because that value gap between a 7 and 8 is so big. And the card has blown up, in recent times. And again, I can look to see, I don't even know when the last time an 8 sold. It says price point's gone up, so that means like it probably sold closer to $7,000 and $6,000. Yeah, I mean, it sold in June this year for close to $7,000 in a PWCC weekly, which seems really odd. Why would you run this in a weekly auction? Why wouldn't we do that? Because the card itself is pretty special. But that's definitely one of the Aaron's I need. I need the 54 Aaron, I need the 56 Aaron, and I need the 58 Aaron to end my Hank Aaron run. I also need the 72. So I didn't put a special spotlight on the 72 Aaron because that's not a hard one to find. So I'm assuming I can find a 72 Aaron at the show. That will be one of the cards I'll look for. And then I wanted to get the 56 or the 58. I'm not sure I'm going to go after the 54. I may go after the 54 if I strike out on the 68 3D. Then I might pivot and look for the 54. But definitely, 58. And then if I can't find a 58, the 56. So I hope to get at least one of these 50s Aaron cards in the collection to kind of narrow that, Aaron 50s gap I've got in my collection. And then last but not least, because there's so many cards I'm going to be looking for in Ken Griffey Jr., I decided to just look on eBay at the highest price ones and say, like, yeah, I need that one. I need that one too. I need that one. I don't need that one. I don't need that 93. So that's at least one I have in the book. Like Legacy Collections. Yep, I need most of them. I only have one. Stand the Man Refractor. Yep, I need that. 94 Upper Deck Auto with Manual. Yep, I need that. 98 Platinum Medallion. Yep, I need that. Don't need the Logo Man. Don't need the Cut Above. I got 2 of those actually. Definitely need Essential Credentials. I don't need the 97. So if you walk through here, yes, there's a lot of cards I need that are basically the highest priced ever. I don't have the Atomic Refractor of this card. I just pulled the base refractor and got it graded a 10. Came back a 10, so cool, but I don't have the Atomic. Obviously, it's worth a heck of a lot more than the base. Essential Credentials, so a lot like this card. I actually bid on and lost. It went crazy high. I need that. I need that. I need that. That's number to 30. So there's a ton of cards I need from Griffey. I need the Pulsars. Yep. Totally need that card. So again, just a lot of Griffey cards I need. I actually don't need that gold refractor there. I got that one. Number 200. Have that card. So again, I need the 101 gold. So there's just a lot of these cards I really need. These high-end Griffies. I don't have a ton of them. I have a lot of the good ones, but I don't have the cream of the crop, these best of best. I actually was on this card, and I didn't win it. So again, we'll see if I can swing it and get some of these really high-end Griffey cards off my list. That would be awesome. But, who knows? Me and a small army of Griffey collectors are going to be out there looking for these cards, right? And I will say this as well on the Griffey side. How competitive it is. There's a few other Griffey collectors. One of them that I'm real good friends on Instagram with that we're going to meet up. Between me and him, his name's Dwayne, we're pretty good about talking to each other before big auctions happen, and I know at the National we're going to be like, hey, if you see this card, don't, I'm looking for this one, don't, if you see it, The rest of the Griffey guys are not like that. It's very dog eat dog, and so I know it's going to be just tough competition. So if I'm out running around looking for a 68 3D Clemente, the Griffies are going to be gone quick. In fact, I know the big Griffey cards will be gone probably. I'm not going to get there till Friday. So unless they're really overpriced, they're going to be gone probably that opening day, or at least Friday. I'm not getting there on Friday. I may not even be in the building on Friday because I've got to pick up my daughter, get on a plane, get to Chicago, and all that stuff. So I may not even get there on Friday at all. So my first day of the show might be Saturday. And so my only hope of getting a Griffey card is if it's overpriced, or if they bought one. That could happen sometimes at the show. They buy some inventory, and so now they set out a card. In fact, that's how I got my Chirography Griffey. The guy bought it. The dealer bought that card from another collector at the show, and so he had it in his pile of cards that he just purchased. And I saw it along with another guy. We were both like, "Ooh, look at that!" And I asked him about it first, and the other guy's like, "Oh shit, you beat me by like a second." I was going to ask about it too, and that's how I got the Chirography Griffey in my collection, because it was just something he had already bought. That could happen. So, but it's rare. Like, that's like you have to be in the right place and right time to even have that happen. So that's what I'm thinking it's going to happen. Is I'm going to show up maybe on Friday late, get there for a couple hours on Friday, or I'm going to get there, Saturday, and a lot of the stuff that was either hot, cool, this kind of Griffey stuff, these big ticket Griffey item cards will have already changed hands, and those guys will be on a plane going back home laughing at me, saying like, "Wow, you are a sucky ass Griffey collector because you didn't show up till Saturday, and you missed out on all the deals." That's probably what's going to happen. So, I'm not as hopeful I'm going to find one of these big ass Griffey cards. I don't even see some of the other ones that are on here, like the Established. That's a big one. There's the Man up there, but I didn't see an Established, but that's another one I'm looking for. So, I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom about this, but I got to be realistic. And that's what I just want to say to everyone. Like, when you go to the National, you have to be optimistic, but also be realistic. I want to find these cards, right? These cards are awesome Griffey cards. These are some of the coolest Griffey cards that are on the planet, right? Like this, the Man, Refractor. When you see it in hand, just like the Established card, they're like nothing that's made today. I mean, the colors, the depth of the refractor, the etching, just on the Established, it's dual-sided. It's like, just like something like otherworldly. That card is so cool, right? I would love to own it. It's just, so would about a couple hundred other people too. So that's the competition side, and you can't just cry, "Oh my God, the world's unfair." It's like, hey, look, they got there early, they got the deal, and you just got to live with it. So hopefully maybe a couple of cards are overpriced, and I can, swing some deals, sell some cards, buy that card, even though I'm paying a little bit over what it's worth. We'll see, and hopefully it works out. And if none of this works out, if there's no good Griffey cards, there's no 68 3D, all the 58 man Aaron suck, I'm hoping I can at least find some other deals, because that's what I've always done. So I'll have a good show no matter what. I'll have some fun. I'll have some good pickup videos for you guys, and it'll be a good time. And I'll see some good friends. And again, for people who, tuning in, I'm going to say this on every video that's going to come out until my 30-year anniversary is coming up on the 19th. The channel is going to change pretty dramatically after the 19th, coinciding with the National. So there's going to be a lot of changes. I'm going to drop a lot of content that I'm currently doing and just focus on some very specific areas. So those announcements will happen on the 19th, coming up in a couple days. So we'll go from there, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.